Welcome to the Bookworm Bindery with Cathy-Lynn. We are starting to wind down on the Mermaid junk journal. Let's see, today now we are going to work on some tags, some pockets. So I did go ahead and just make this one up really quick. Put a brad in it. So this is a combination of, let's see, I think this is Rach and Bella, or Rach and Bella Crafts. And I don't know who these come from. Oh, don't you hate it when that happens? So I've made one, got another one to make. So let's go ahead and get this mermaid cut out. Now, because these were edged already in black, I went ahead and pulled out the black ink and brush. Set this aside for right now. I don't think I'm using it, but I'm just going to set it to the side. If I need it, I'll get it out. So I went ahead and pulled out the black ink and the black dense bristle brush. I think they're intended for makeup, but I use them for inking. When I don't use the brush, I tend to use little makeup triangle foam things. I bought them to do fun stuff on my nails with years ago. And, you know, like when you put nail polish on the edge of the triangle, the foam triangle, and then you dab it on your nails to get an interesting look. And I played with it a few times, and then I said, okay, I think I'm fine. I don't need to do that anymore. I know that in the previous video, or at least I think it was the previous video, I said that when I used the crocodile corner chomper, I usually used the 1/2 inch corner cut, and I rarely used the quarter. But this is a small little design, so I am using the quarter chomper because it seems to be a good thing on a small tag or journal card. In this case, this is going to be glued onto this really nice tag. I just thought that the lace and stuff looked really cool with it. Now, these have a nice edge on them. It's kind of a sand color, so deeper than ecru and distinctly not black, but I will be inking it in so that it goes along. I had asked in the last video if you liked to do fussy cutting, if you hated it, if you did it, whether you, some people are just like, nope, don't do that. And there is nothing wrong with that. We have to go by the to each his own here. And that video, I am actually waiting your response. So if you haven't seen the previous videos in this series, you might want to go back and watch them. We have, oops, that's not what I'm looking for at all. I have rounded the corners. Now what I wanted to do was punch a hole in this tag. I am using the small hole, the 1/8 inch, and I'm trying to go for center, but I'm not measuring, and it's not in the center. It's not like I jinxed myself by saying that. It wouldn't have been in the center even if I hadn't said anything. Okay, so let's get this put on first. Oh, let's get it inked. So I do have a big Ranger Archival ink, but I've already put it away, so I just grabbed the smaller one. I wasn't going to be doing big stamps or stencils, so it seemed totally fine just to get the small one out. There, good. I'm here, might as well do this one. So now I'm just kind of inking over the border that this came with. And I don't think it's something that's going to stand out as being particularly odd because there's already bits of black and deep dark browns in it. And maybe this will just kind of pull it out. So I didn't show you on the other one, but I had come in and finished off the edges on the back side. So this is going to be really a nice size to use as a writing space if my client Stephanie wants to make little notes or write down a poem or whatever she does. And then what I did with it, just so that it had an element of, yes, I am paying attention. I just did a light little swirl. So now let's go ahead and get this glued on. And I had gotten behind a couple of days ago. I did not get a video put out, and so I ended up taking this Friday and working on multiple videos. My Saturdays are long days at work. I usually go in around, it's the only day I have to get up in the morning early. So I usually go into the studio on Saturdays around 7:30, and I won't get done until about 5:30 or 6. So I won't have any time on Saturday to video, and you know what? Oh, yeah, looks a little crazy. Oh, well. If that bothers the client, I will redo this by printing out another tag and just making it so that it is indeed straight. But I kind of mushed it over that way a little bit, so it looks a little bit okay. We'll see how that goes. Now, those tags are just going to be set aside, and once I have a little more pockets, I can put it in the book. But I did want to do a couple of small ones, and I am going to do that by taking these images, which I printed in several different sizes because I was looking to find what would be the best size to put a front cover decoration thingy on. And this was the image I wanted to put on the front, and so I printed this in several different sizes so that I could get the exact right size I wanted. I actually then, after I tested it on paper, I went ahead and I printed it out on fabric. Let's see. I don't know how well this is going to go. We'll see. Let's go with... I don't know if this is part of her tail or not, but here's the tail. There's a swishy over here and over here. So I'm going with yes, it is part of her tail. I may have just cut off a bit of a curlicue. That would have been maybe where the water was being swished by said tail. And that's the way it goes. I'm not going to be able to get all of this on, but we're going to start by just kind of moving around her, seeing what we can get on. Some of this is just the swishing, I think, of her body in the water. So it's just water movement. And I will go back and do a little bit more of a refined cut in a second. Sometimes it's easier just to get the excess paper out of the way. This was just done on regular weight copy paper. I think it's pretty flimsy, and it'll be fine once it is stabilized onto this card. Okay, now that we're looking at this, we are not going to get her whole tail in there. And I'm not putting brads or cutting holes in the top. I thought I would use this one, which I thought was perfect. And then this one because it's just kind of pretty. So I think what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to cut out along her body, move out so that we get some of this flow of her hair. I'll worry about this side in a minute. So we'll play with that just a little bit more. One thing that I don't remember who said it, but honestly, I kind of feel like maybe it may have been Tina on Shabby Dabby Doodah, but it may not have been, so don't quote me on it, who said that don't worry about cutting it out, because once it's cut out and it's sitting there, people aren't going to know what it looked like before you cut it out. And I thought, oh, thank goodness, I never thought of that. And that made a massive amount of difference in my willingness to play with fussy cutting. And let's get all my bits up. Just in case you wondered how I magically was able to do that, I licked my finger. It's a very old-fashioned way to go about doing things. Okay, so now I see her in here, and I don't want to take her to the edges because I'm not going to ink this in black. So I want the lines of her to come to the insides of the outline of this. And I think we're going to end up losing part of this tail, and I'm not exactly sure where I should cut it. So we'll start with it somewhere and then come back. Okay, so when I look at it now, it needs to come straight here and come straight down there. I suppose it'll be okay if I overcut it. But I think instead I'm just going to cut it 15 different times so that I can glue it in here just right, and no one will ever understand the difference in what it could have or should have or would have looked like if I'd done it differently. So there's this. So that can sit right there on that edge. We are good. Okay. So I had cut this down. I actually think I want a tiny bit of definition there. So I think I'm just going to cut into that. That'll pick up a little bit to the back. I don't know whether that was good or bad or indifferent, but it's what it is. Now I need to glue her on. And I have found that by preference, the technique that I like to do, not that I always do it, but what I like to do is I like to do all this squiggly stuff in the middle and then go right around and do the outside edge. I prefer my outside edge to not be too thick. And so if I do the inside a little thicker, it's going to take a little longer to dry. And this is paranoia speaking here, that it's going to dry instantly before I get to it. Then I can go and do a little bit flatter of a glue edge or glue around the edge and be set pretty well. So let's move you into place. Up, 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 up. Ah, nice. Maybe a little scoocher, little bit over to that corner. Little bit of scooching. I don't know, without feeling her, if you could even tell that she's been glued onto something and wasn't actually printed in there. I think that's cool. Okay. Seeing as how my glue is coming out a little hard, let's pin it. Okay. So now I just want to move along this carefully. And get this all cut off. Now, one of the things that I want to do with these couple of smaller journal tags or cards that I'm making is I want to put some pearlescent dimensional paint, and what I have is Liquid Pearls by Ranger, and I want to put a few pearls on this because I used that dimensional paint and put it, it's drying nicely, but I did put it in where there were pearls or air bubbles or something on this. Now, so this is the same print as this mermaid, and I printed her on printable fabric paper by June Taylor, and I got the purple lace, gathered lace, put around the back. And I know I've mentioned this a couple of times. It's on previous videos as well, but this is going to be put in here, and then I'm going to be putting flat back pearls along here. So I kind of would like those flat back pearls or the pearlescence to be worked through the book, not have it only, oh, let's put this over here. Okay. Only on the front. A little continuity inside. So as soon as I get the other one done, then we'll do a little bit of liquid pearl on this and set it aside so that with any luck at all, there won't be any, I was going to do a seashell on this. So now I have to find my seashells. I left them in the folder, so we're going to bring this back out. And I was going to do one of these. See how that works. Yeah. So, of course, one of the things is that, you know, each person has different items to put in a book like this, and we all have just different thoughts on how to put in pockets and tucks. So this is something that my client Stephanie has done on her own in the past. She even took a class that I offered last year on making the journals, because that's what I started with. I started making journals, empty paged books, and then kind of got swept along in a riptide of junk journaling, as it were. And I've not done many of them, but my client had taken a class on how to make the journals. And then, ooh, I kind of like the squid on that. sea urchins. That's a little bit big. That sea urchin might work. Okay, we're going to cut out this squid and that sea urchin and make a decision. So as I was saying, yes. So on the previous journal that I had, junk journal that I had made up for her, her comment was, I like it when you do some of the pockets and tucks because you do things I wouldn't think to do. And I think that that's a pretty cool thing. It means that she's getting value out of what I add to her journal, and then she can go in and she can add the things that are in her thought process, in her wheelhouse, as the case is for this particular journal. And she ends up with a nice variety of content in her journal. Okay, this had a funny corner. So we're just going to make it have funny corners. We're not going to round them. We're going to freehand cut them like that. Okay, so this is an option. I can shave it down just a little bit more so that it's within the borders, and I think I would like to do that. Then we have this one. And this one would fit in here really quite nicely. So let's bring it up so you can see it a little bit better. Do we want sea urchins? Or do we want a lovely squid? I'm thinking squid, actually. So I think what I want to do is I want to trim these edges up. I don't have much I can trim here, but a little trim may be exactly what's needed. And I can take a little bit more off this side if I have to, but I don't think I do. Actually, I am going to need to because this cut's not straight. Do I have implements to make straight cuts? Yes. I'm not even going to ask if I used it because obviously I didn't. Okay. Does that look a little bit better? No. Yes, it does. It looks a little bit better, but it's still not where I need it to be. So a little more there. And then honestly, I'm thinking a little bit more here. Okay. Oh, that looks so much better. Maybe you could even tell the difference. I don't know. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and cut these a little steeper. Do I have little cards made up to make these little corners nice and straight? Yes, I do. No, I am not using them. Okay, again, a finger lick to pick up all these little bits. Okay, so we're going to take this little sea urchin doodad. I'm going to take these other pieces that I'm not using. I like to collect everything that I'm going to be working with into a folder, and then as I finish with it, I put the stuff towards the back of the folder, and that way it doesn't make such a mess on my table. I don't mind working in a mess too much, but I can't stand it when I can't find something that was just there. I know it was just there. Okay, so now let's get this glued on. And let's go about putting a little bit of liquid pearl on. Sometimes it seems to me, in my vast impatience, for that to take forever to dry. And I would like to think that I am about 3 days away from delivering this journal. Maybe only 2 days. Okay. Nice. So I'm going to want the liquid pearl to dry, and I'm going to want it to dry very quickly. And I'm not going to hold my breath because that could be disastrous. So let's see if we can get, yep, it's going to start coming out. Okay, so what I really want are actual pearls. And Pam at the Paper Outpost says straight down, straight up, and then you get a little pearl that will form. And I'm just putting them at the end of some of these flourishes. So they're not going to be in here very symmetrical. That is not a problem for me. Okay. Yep. I think we're actually leaving it at that. Now, because this is, I don't know how I can show this to you. If I turn it on the edge and I move these, you can see that these are sticking up. You can see it here. You can see that there's a distinct 3D effect. And it takes a while for that to dry, a couple of days. So it's not like this is a pocket. I am going to go ahead and put it, I have a little stand that holds things, multi-leveled stand. And I'm going to put them over there, consider them out of, let's see if I can get that to settle. Okay. I noticed that the color, the light was going in and out on that. I think that was because of the way I'm moving around. My apologies. This one, I'm doing a whole bunch more, and I'm going to try my best not to stick my fingers in. Part of that so much more is just because I can. My friend Peggy says, everything in moderation, including moderation. So I went light on the other one. I kind of semi went all out on this one. Now I have to put them somewhere. Where they won't fall off and they won't get stepped on by cats, although they're not allowed to walk on this table. Doesn't actually stop them from doing it. Okay. So that product can probably just be put back here for now. And that's going to leave me finishing up with cutting out a couple of designs that I want to use as pockets or corner tucks. So in this case, I did this in a nice medium weight cardstock, maybe even more of a heavyweight cardstock, and I think that makes beautiful corner tucks. So that's what we're going to do with this. One of the advantages of putting everything back in the folder to the back as I use it is if I decide, oh, I wish I had this with her cut out, I can find it quickly. So I can kind of mess around. I probably wouldn't put two corner tucks with the same image. And then what I'm going to do with this, I actually want all three of these mermaid pictures, but I want to make them into pockets. So I'm going to cut them flush across the top of each picture. And then I'm going to go in and I'm going to cut gussets, flanges. And I'm going to do it by eye. I actually have a pattern that I can use, but you know, why use a pattern when you can just do it by eye? Is this always as good as if I'd used a pattern? No, But sometimes you just have to fly by the seat of your pants. Now these are going to get folded down. And when you glue these in, this is going to give you just a little bit more space inside. So let's pull the picture, because I don't know that I'm going to get them all done in this video, but it's also fairly monotonous. So we already have a pocket here. I am going to go ahead and use my 1-inch hole punch to cut a thumb notch out of it. I do want to go through and ink these, and I think I'm going to go with the green that I've been using. It'll pull up the green in the mermaid's tail. It has already been inked around the edges in really dark brown, but we're just going to lay this right over the top, add a little bit more, oops, sorry about that, a little bit more interest and depth. Add our own little personal touch. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. Set that there. And then we're going to go and find a page that we would be happy to put something on. Sorry, smacked you again. And maybe we'll just put that right here. This particular page has yeah, segmented worm diagrams on for in the ocean bottoms. Not very fun and fancy. More than likely something will get put over that, but for right now we're going to put a pocket down here. So back in the day, in my youth, I started off studying college to become a marine biologist, and at some point the crushing realization that I would have to leave my beloved desert to go to school, even if it was just for a couple of years before I came back. The University of Arizona has a fantastic marine biology oceanography department, but you can't do all of your education in one college. You've got to get to other universities and colleges, and I was like, you know what, that's not going to happen. So I switched over to arid land management. That got interrupted as well, but I have a lot of sciencey stuff because I have a sciencey background. Okay, so here we go. Let's take a little piece of paper of some sort, you know, to do the proof of the pocket test. And there is that. And while I still have you here, let's take this image, ink her up and around. It's not going to do much, but it gets rid of that white edge from the paper that this was printed on. And that's good. So the other 3 pockets like this will get added into the book. The 4 different tags, these and the painted ones, will get added into pockets at a later time. So they have to sit and dry. Oh, there she is. Let's try. Let's see. What do we want to do? We've got a nice pocket there. Let's go to the back of this one. This has a corner pocket here, or a diagonal tuck. Let's go ahead and add this corner pocket in, or a corner tuck. So the idea here will be to glue this side and this side, leaving this side open. And now that I look at that like that, I would like to round this corner. If I can get that. Bring it out, round it. It's a preference of mine for these. I think it's easier to slide things in than if it's a sharp point. Okay, so as I'm doing this, I'm wrapping up this video of continued pockets and tucks in the Mermaid junk journal for my client Stephanie. So there's going to be a little bit more content you're going to be able to pull up and look at. So make sure you come back. If you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, if you haven't hit the bell, go ahead and do that. Give me a like if you've liked this. And please feel free to leave a comment, questions, suggestions.